Welcome to Year of Connection, a year-long journey toward becoming whole self-connected. I'm your host, Pauline Hsu. Whether you call it charity, community service, or something else, acts of selfless giving are important because they require you to recognize that there is something in the world bigger than you that is worthy of receiving what you have to give, no strings attached. Today, we are going to chat about what selfless giving means and the great things you can receive through such actions. Just over a week ago, I went to a concert in another state and had an amazing time. However, it was a 5-hour concert and a long flight home afterward. So when I got back late on Sunday night, I have to admit I didn't have the energy to record this episode for the following day. So instead, today I'm releasing 2 episodes back to back. This one an hour before the usual time, although admittedly a week late, and the next one at the usual time. The next one is very relevant to my concert experience, so perhaps all that exhaustion was good for something after all. But that's the next episode. In this one, we'll be talking about something I had meant to discuss a couple of weeks ago, acts of selfless giving. Some of you might hear the word selfless and think of someone who is, for lack of a better word, a pushover. But that's not what being selfless is about. Selfless means being concerned with the needs of others. It means working through empathy to help others and not demanding anything in return for actions that provide basic care to fellow humans. Selflessness is different from a person who runs themselves ragged doing whatever everyone else wants. With that in mind, let's talk about selfless giving. We're not talking about giving more than you can afford emotionally, mentally, physically, or yes, absolutely, financially. You don't need to, and you shouldn't, go into debt in any way at any level in order to give selflessly. What it does mean is that you attune yourselves to the needs of others and then seek to provide the needs that you can afford. And most importantly, you do it all without calling attention to yourself, without sharing out that you've done this great thing, without expecting any external reward or compliments for you. Because the moment you make it about you and needing someone to recognize what you have done, it ceases to be selfless. I'm sure you know people who struggle with being able to give selflessly. Perhaps they are generous, maybe even too generous with their resources, which is commendable to an extent, but they need everyone to know it at the same time, and often that expectation of praise for their good deeds drains energy from others. If we're looking to boost connection, making exhausting emotional demands is ultimately counterproductive, no matter how generous a person is otherwise. Selfless giving, and the connection that comes from that, requires us to evaluate our surplus and not give more than we can afford. What do you have that is extra? I'm not talking about old clothes that are lying around, although, yeah, go ahead and donate those if they're in good condition. What I'm talking about is honestly analyzing how healthy you are when it comes to your body, your mind, and your money. And then understanding how much you truly need to make sure that health is good or stays good. If you're already healthy in those areas, or you know what you need in order to get healthy, then the rest, it's a surplus. It's what you can afford to give selflessly. Take that example I just gave you of someone who's always seeking praise for their good deeds. If you take a look at your life and realize you have plenty of money, a solid education, but you need people to tell you constantly how great you are and how much they love you, you might need to redirect some of your resources toward fixing your emotional health before you can give selflessly. However, if you feel like you have a great foundation and there is surplus for you to give, consider where you can have an impact, but can also focus on the conditions of selflessness. Remember, that means being concerned with the needs of others, working through empathy to help others, and not demanding anything in return for actions that provide care to fellow humans. I think we all have a good handle now on what it means to give selflessly, but why do we want to give selflessly? because in doing so, we show others that we value them for who they are, no strings attached. Giving your time and energy to an elderly person to help clean their house is a way of recognizing that just because a person might have physical limitations that prevent them from tidying up doesn't mean that they don't wish to live in a nice environment. It doesn't mean they aren't good people, interesting people, or people who love and feel just like others do. But it does mean that they don't have a physical surplus, while you might. Donating toys to children doesn't mean that they are lacking as humans. It only means that their guardians might not be able to afford toys, while you have a surplus of money. Participating in trash removal from public spaces doesn't mean that you're a better person than those who litter. It only means that you've probably built up a strong knowledge base and understand your civic responsibility, as well as the impact of litter on the environment. And that's your surplus to give. When you give like this, when you share your surplus and make others feel valued, not less than, the probability of really seeing each other at a human level goes up significantly. And when that happens, the circumstances are ripe for connection. And who knows? The people who didn't realize before that it's not good for the environment or for public health to throw trash on the ground might just learn from your example. Often, giving selflessly goes hand in hand with being a role model. This week, take some time to honestly evaluate the health of your body, your mind, and your money. Be frank about what you can afford to give. And if you have a surplus, begin to distribute it through acts of selfless giving. The connections you make might make you the grateful one for the wonderful gift you've received. I'll see you next week. In the meantime, I wish you safe travels.